So let's practice reading very large numbers and getting a little bit more familiar with the place value chart. So in working with this, something that comes to be very important is the use of commas in math. So notice how we have what's referred to as the ones place, the tens place, the hundreds place, and then after the hundreds place we put our comma. This represents a new period. So in this area here, we have then what's referred to as the 1,000ths period or thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, and then we put another comma here. So this region here is referred to as the thousands period. So it's very important to include that on the ending when you read numbers. And then we have the next period we describe as the millions. So this is the 1 millions, the 10 millions, the 100 millions. So again, this ending becomes very important if we're out in this area of the place values. So the millions period. So we always put that on the end out there. And then we put another comma in here, and we actually get into what's referred to as the billions place. And we use that quite a bit these days too. So billions or 1 billions, 10 billions, and 100 billions. So that's another period. So when we read numbers that are really large, it's important to pay attention to the comma because that helps me understand how to read it. So if I read what's before the comma, see how we have this 25. Notice how that 25 actually belongs in this region right here. And then we have that comma, and we have this 368. So that comma really helps me pick up on where the endings go. Since the 25 is in the thousands period, we read this as 25 and then stick on the ending of 1,000. And then we carry out the reading 368. So 368. So it's important to pick up on those endings. So when I read this next number, we have 150. Notice that that's in the thousands period. So we say 150. And then it's important that we pick up on that, hey, that's in the thousands period. So 150,000, and then we read the second part, the 702. 702. So notice when I write it, 150,000, comma, 702. That's how we also write it. We pay attention to the comma. So the next number here goes out a little bit further. We have this 35, but notice how it's out there 3 place values out, 3 periods out. So it goes out to this millions period. We have our comma, which then we have our thousands period. And then we have our comma, and then we just have our normal ones, tens, and hundreds. So 175. So when we read this, we really pay attention to the commas because they help us put the endings on there. So when I look at that 35, I have to say 35, but notice how we're in the millions period. So we say 35, and then we stick on that ending of a million, 35 million. Then I read it as 100. Notice how I'm in the thousands period. So we say 100,000. And then we just say the 175. So the 35, we have that 35 million, 100,000, 175. That's really important to place value to pick up on. So when I look at the next number, it's even bigger. So when we look at that one, the 25 goes out here in the next period, which is the billions period. Then we have our comma. We have a bunch of zeros as placeholders, so there's nothing in the billions period. I'm sorry, in the millions period. There's also a bunch of zeros in the thousands period. And there's a bunch of zeros in the just the ones, the tens, and the hundreds place. So when I read this, we just simply say the 25, and since it's in the billions period, we say 25 billion, and that would be it. Most commonly, you would see this as probably just 25 billion. When numbers get this big, they don't use zeros. They actually just write down the word, because it's actually shorter to write the word than it is to write the number. So 25 billion. So when we see this number here, notice how that would be in the millions place. So we would say 4 million. and then we have 600,000, and that would be it. So notice how when we write it, 4 million, and there's our comma, 600,000. In this last example, we have 175, and notice that that's in the thousands period, so we'd say 175,000, and then we would just put on the 1. 175,001. So when we write it 175, stick on that 1,000 since we're in the thousands period, and then the 1. That's how we would write that all out. So again, place value becomes very important, and so when we use very large numbers, notice that those commas go in every 3, ones, tens, hundreds, comma. We then have our 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, comma, and then 1 million, 10 million. Then we have 100 million, comma, and then we have our billions, 1 billion, 10 billion, 100 billion, comma. So we pick up on that. So we have those different periods there that are important to pick up on now. We now have what's called the thousands period, and now we also have what's referred to as the millions period, and then we also have what's referred to as the billions period. So, and we keep on going out from there. So hopefully you find that useful, and we will move into some other lessons.